Welcome to your CCPS Science Review Lab. Today we're going to start one of the videos that we're going to be using for scientific method. Our focus in this video is going to be about data collection and what data looks like and how we store data and what we do with it. Okay, so let's just warm up a little bit and take a look at this table that I've created. Now, based on the data in this table, I have decided that I am not going to use fertilizer in my potato garden. Do you agree with my decision? And if so, why or why not? Well, let's take a look at what we have here. We're talking about let's look at the title. Our title is potato yield. That means how many potatoes were grown. Okay, so if we have our potato plants, how many potatoes were produced? That is our yield. We obviously did 1, 2, 3 trials. Now, the first control that we did was with no fertilizer. In trial 1, we grew 5 potatoes, trial 2, 9, trial 3, 6, and then we averaged them. Okay, and that average came out to 6.7. We did the same with fertilizer A and fertilizer B. So let's look at the averages. Based on the averages, and remember that average is the average amount of number of potatoes that were grown in each trial, in each circumstance. And we've got for no fertilizer, 6.7 potatoes. Fertilizer A, 33.3 potatoes, and fertilizer B, 30.7 potatoes. So obviously, if my goal is to grow as many potatoes as possible, does my choice to not use fertilizer make any sense? No, it really doesn't. And you can see that very clearly because that produced the least number of potatoes. How we collect data is very, very, very important. How we write down the data we collect is equally important. So we always want to make sure that our data charts have a title, because the idea with science is that it's replicable, that someone could come in and repeat it, correct? So they understand what we're doing. Well, if we've got numbers higgledy-piggledy all over the place, we're not going to be able to keep track of what data is what. So we always want our data charts to have a title. We want our columns to be very clearly marked. When possible, it's great if we include our units. So if we look over here on our left-hand side, when we were talking about average plant growth, I wrote up here centimeters, the units that I'm going to measure with. That way everybody knows what 25.4 what, 33.0 what. Well, we know centimeters. Same way over here, if we're talking about our water temperatures versus depth chart. Water depth, we're measuring in what? Meters. And temperature, we're measuring in Celsius. Again, it's about clear communication, making sure that everybody understands what they're looking at. Okay? Now, when we come over here, we see how a data table, okay, again, that's how we're communicating and arranging our data. We can then take that data and we can use it in a graph. Okay, so our independent variable is going to go on our x-axis. I want you to remember that. Write that down somewhere. When you are collecting data and then graphing it, remember, here's a chart or a table, here's a graph. 2 different ways of communicating information. Your independent variable, what you are changing, is always going to be on your x-axis. And then your dependent variable, that's that number that you're collecting, that data, that's going to be on your y-axis. That's a must memorize, okay, guys? So your independent variable is on the x-axis and your dependent variable is on your y-axis. So going from there, let's take a look at the data table we have here. Obviously, we have students conducting an experiment. They're testing the time it takes food coloring to mix with water. The result of the experiments are summarized in the table below. I want you to come up with 3 different sentences explaining what the data is telling you. So ideally, what conclusion could you draw based on this data? What is a true statement or 3 true statements you can make about the data in this table? And then when you're done with the first one, go ahead and do 3 statements, again, about what the data is telling you on the second table. Good luck. Show what you know.